Hard Hat Hockey. Welcome in, welcome back. It's no secret we've been on a couple week hiatus here, repriming the pump and kind of rebuilding emotionally, if you will, as a staff. Our departure for a couple weeks to refocus is for a reason, and let me tell you why. There's no question we love hockey on this podcast and across the country, quite frankly, with little risk to our own personal lives. Our biggest downfalls, are from a loss or a traded player. Perhaps we lose one of our favorite players to free agency or a trade, or maybe we lose in the playoffs and we've got to suffer the agony of another offseason and hopes if our team will rebuild to take us back on Stanley Cup glory. Until on August 29th, when things become much more than just hockey, and the game of hockey is rather a view in our rearview mirror as the things that really matter get put into perspective. Brothers Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau, while riding bikes on a rural road in Oldsman Township, New Jersey, were struck by a drunk driver and killed. Obviously rocking the NHL world, trying to piece together how the league was going to move forward and how personally we were going to move forward on this show was difficult. Talking about anything related to hockey only brought up the pain and the agony of this situation. You're talking about Johnny Hockey, 7-time NHL All-Star, Hobey Baker winner with Boston College, also national championship in 2012, where he had a very famous goal to part. It's also no secret, Johnny passed up a first shot at the NHL so he could stay at Boston College to play with his brother Matthew, making their connection even stronger. Johnny went on to have a storied career with the Calgary Flames, Team USA, and then the Columbus Blue Jackets. Most notably, Game 7 winner of 2022 that brought the city of Calgary to its feet. I believe that was against the Dallas Stars. Here to talk further about Johnny Hockey and honor his memory is our very own Grant Miller, as always, coming out of Columbus, Ohio.
Thanks, Trent. That was very well said. And you know, if you're listening to this, chances are you may know us personally, or you just love hockey as much as we do. And these are one of those moments that it's tough to put into words, kind of how I've felt the past couple of weeks. I want to thank Trent for kind of being a really good friend and putting a lot of work into this show, and so that we could. The best days just talk hockey and stay in touch and have some fun with this. But then, when tragedy like this happens, it also kind of allows us to have somewhat of an outlet and a healthy way to kind of work through this and help each other. Trent was texting me immediately when the news broke, and I, always be appreciative of him in that moment to be a friend. Thoughts and prayers and everything to the Gauddreau family. The details of the accident were gut-wrenching, knowing how close Johnny and Matthew were and how special of a weekend they were going to have with their sister's wedding. And I can't say enough about the hockey community after this news passed. The next couple of days, people I've known, people Trent know, our friends, our family, and just people that we've become friends with online through this. And the thing that struck me the most wasn't the highlights of Johnny and Matthew, or they were very great hockey players in their own right. It was the personal stories that were shared, and the video I love so much is just him dancing at the wedding on top of it was Brady Tkachuk's shoulders. Just how funny that was, and the photos of him with just buttered noodles and no sauce, and the Johnny ham and cheese story, and so many things of just who he was as a person. There's no one in the world that has a bad thing to say about John Gauddreau and Matthew Gaudreau. They were just seemed like the greatest guys and dudes you wanted to have on your team and just be close with. And I think it's a testament to their character. The outpouring of support was so genuine and heartfelt. And this past Wednesday, my girlfriend Ashley and I went down to it's candlelight vigil at Nationwide Arena. And, I saw a lot of people, struggling and having emotional moments, but I also saw a lot of people having each other's backs. And I saw a lot of people, familiar faces, kind of embracing one another and helping each other through that. It was a lot. It was a lot. The players for the Jackets were there and spoke kind of directly to the fans, which, was very kind of like raw. Drew Jenner spoke, Cole Sillinger spoke, Eric Brunson told some really amazing stories about his friendship with John Gauddreau. And, Trent and I were kind of talking before we got on here. It was like, I don't know how you go on as an organization. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention the passing of Kiv Lennox. It was 2 or 3 years ago on July 4th weekend, and how that struck the community. And I tear up when I see the number 80 hanging in the rafters, and I think about, his friendship with Elvis Merzlikins and what he meant. Now, that's still kind of a raw moment. And now we've lost another member of this community and this team. And Johnny's face is very prominently kind of up on the window as you walk into the arena. He was our star player. It's more than that because he was an amazing person. But he, like what Zach Werenski kind of spoke at the vigil and press area before, he said, Zach's been here a long time. I think he's kind of seen as, the local guy, even though he's from Michigan. But he said very candidly, like, Johnny, thank you for choosing Columbus when a lot of people weren't. And he wanted to be here. That means a lot for this fan base. And it's going to be tough to fill that. It's going to be tough to fill that energy. And I think as we go on as a hockey community, specifically here in Columbus, but his passing is felt everywhere. I mean, from Calgary to Boston to Philadelphia and everywhere in between. Like, what we can come of this and have each other's kind of, we can grow and stay tight knit. And that's what I saw a lot of Wednesday. I saw a lot of people praying together. Saw a lot of people kind of, crying and embracing, and it's tragic. And I don't really know what the season's going to look like. I've been telling Trent, I don't really want to think too much about it from a hockey standpoint. But hockey is so much built in camaraderie and continuity and energy. And on top of just who it was as a person, you're going to miss that. And that's going to be felt for a very long time in Columbus. And it's going to kind of define it's going to define kind of the hockey organization community here in Columbus and how we respond to this.
If there is a silver lining at all, which is probably overeager, but NHL is a passionate group of people. Every fan base, very passionate. Maybe not the largest following in the world and compared to other sports leagues, but the love for the players that develops is confirmed in moments like this. And you've seen so many just candid, authentic moments from Johnny Hockey specifically. The one you sent me where he's walking down the hallway outside the locker room and he sees the logo of the Oilers, and as if he's a child, just rings out, boo.
I love that.
Right? That's just very human elements that people can relate to, and why the fans of the sport are so passionate about these players and just grow to love them, because it is a very camaraderie filled environment and very authentic and genuine people, players and fans alike. So when tragedy like this strikes, it strikes hard, and you can't really put the pieces together, especially with this timing. The preseason starts in a week. And to your point, that is going to be not obviously a massive void on the ice in the locker room for the fans, but how do you piece that together?
It's gonna take time, and I think that's, I don't know. I don't know. Like, it's tough to talk about because, I mean, let's be honest, neither one of us knew Don or Matthew, but you feel an attachment to guys on your team. And, that attachment can be kind of toxic in some areas, but it could be really, it could be really great in a lot of ways. I loved watching Johnny Gaudreau play hockey even when he was back in BC. And he's a similar age to you and I can't say I felt like it was a peer, but like it's one of those moments as a fan where like you start off as a kid and you like look up to these guys that are like idols and they feel like, like otherworldly in a way of what they're able to do. And then you get a little older and maybe you start knowing a guy that goes and plays in college and that's cool. And that's like you can kind of relate to it and you feel like you have a little bit of a connection to somebody. And then you see another guy that kind of like is your same age and doing amazing things. You're like, how's that even possible? Like I can barely like keep up in my own like small world of athletics. And there's a guy my same age that's killing it. That's kind of how I felt about Gauddreau. And then he goes to Calgary, and I always had to remind myself, like, man, he's barely a couple months older than me, and he's dominating on the ice, and he looks like he's having so much fun. And I think it was Cole Sillinger kind of spoke, and I think he really nailed it, where he said, Cole saying, I grew up an Oilers fan, and then when Gauddreau got to Calgary, I became a Johnny Gaudreau fan. That's what his impact was to the game. And that impact came to Columbus. And that was so amazing. And maybe, his legacy and what the team can get from this. And Brunson kind of mentioned this was Johnny had the right outlook on life. And if you can just kind of go about your life, whatever it is, with a little bit more Johnny Gaudreau in it, and I think the world, you're doing something right. You're on the right path. So that's kind of what I've started to take from this. And, the Jackets can lose every game next year and it won't matter. That won't be the story. It'll be how everyone comes together, through this.
Well, it's something that's so comforting about Johnny hockey is not only clearly he was such a great teammate, great player, a great husband and father as well off the ice, which makes him so relatable. I particularly enjoyed the story with Kevin Hayes. He spoke recently. It was Kevin Hayes, Chris Kreider. They were all on that Boston College team, which looking back, how stacked was that college out there? But Kevin Hayes talking to Boston College's coach essentially about this kid, this 5'7" kid. This kid's coming in. This is who's going to help us win a national championship. Are you kidding me? Because BC had kind of been a little bit cursed in the playoffs leading up to that 2012 season. And yeah, coach told Kevin Hayes, yep, you just watch. And sure enough, yeah, that worked out. That worked out. And if you haven't seen the highlight reel goal, I highly encourage you go look up Johnny Gaudreau's college hockey highlight reel because it's something to see. Hard Hat Hockey, in our best effort to honor Johnny Hockey and honor his brother Matthew, we're going to continue with our show, not move on in any way, shape, or form, but rather pay respects to the life here and try to inject as much Gauddreau hockey and how we produce this show moving forward, and take a little bit from their character and inject it as best as we can. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want your stock market tips, here it is. Now's the time. Grant, I am buying on Yaroslav Askarov. For a little bit of context, this happened very quick out in Nashville a couple weeks ago. Askarov, who is notably known as the probably best goaltending prospect in the NHL, requests a trade out of Nashville, seemingly after they extended UC Saros to that 8-year contract. Longtime veteran of the Nashville Predators. Seems like Askarov saw the writing on the wall, and he wants to be a starting goaltender, rightfully so. Quickly developed trade to San Jose Sharks. Askarov will now be a part of a tandem with Mackenzie Blackwood. San Jose Sharks, Folks, if you're looking for how to complete a rebuild, look no further than San Jose because they are on the right track. Not saying they're going to be good this year, but they have really done a nice job piecing that team together and turning that thing around. Askarov, 911 save percentage last year in the AHL with the Milwaukee Admirals. He played in only 2 games with the Predators, but in those 2 games established a 943 save percentage and a 1.47 goals against average. Small sample size in the NHL, but I think it's a very clear direction on where this is headed and how this is going to establish and manifest itself in San Jose. So for that, I'm buying that stock, Grant.
I think that's very well thought out. That's a good, when you're talking about to a financial advisor or broker, you want your picks, not some picks, but you want your pathway to be rooted in data and backing up. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was a good breakdown. I got a lot of love for the Milwaukee Admirals, by the way. That's a great AHL environment up there if anyone ever gets a chance to go to a game. Solid. I'm also kind of going with the San Jose Sharks angle, if I may. I don't know if you saw this news. I love stories like this. This kind of, let's say, warms my heart, but it cracks me up because I know it's fairly common practice. But Will Smith, center for the San Jose Sharks, American, a player I've always kind of had my eye on and wouldn't have been opposed to him landing in Columbus. He's going to live at Patrick Marleau's house this year. Oh, Trent, did you see this news?
I did, and that's a great house to live. That's a great place.
I think that is great. Imagine Patrick Marleau is like your big brother or uncle, maybe, because he's that old. And I think this will bode well for Will. I think he's going to have an amazing career in season because he's gonna live with Patrick Marleau. So that's bumping him up a couple notches in my book.
That boy is going to eat like a king. There is no doubt in my mind that kitchen is stacked to the gills.
Oh, it's got to be.
It's a Whole Foods. Their kitchen is a Whole Foods. I have no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I saw that. It's been tough to, we love this. Everything we say is going to kind of go back to the Gauddreau stuff, but it's hard to kind of cover this sport right now without getting too emotional, but then things like this come across, the desk and you get a smile and a laugh and you think about it. And yeah, it's good stuff. And like I said, this isn't terribly uncommon. A lot of old NHL veterans end up kind of being like landlords for the younger crop of players coming up.
Yeah, not the first time you've heard about this. So it's a good trend to see for veterans that are well respected. Okay, Grant, as my financial advisor, here's my stock that I'm selling. It has become a trend where prospects are getting more and more emboldened, dare I say entitled. Just look at the Cutter Gauthier situation last season with the Philadelphia Flyers.
Empowerment trend.
Right. It's a trend, and to put it kindly, these players know their worth is how I'll leave that without coming across as disrespectful. Rutger McGroarty, prospect and draftee of the Winnipeg Jets, playing for the University of Michigan, which will likely be his final season, 2024-2025 as a Wolverine, will likely jump into the NHL following this college season. Voiced his disapproval and unhappiness about the situation with the Winnipeg Jets in a very vague news conference, ultimately suggesting that he wanted nothing to do with the city of Winnipeg or this organization and requested/demanded a trade to a larger program. In this kind of situation, the player hasn't even stepped on NHL ice yet and is already making demands via the voice of his agent with the big club. You didn't see this 10 years ago. You hardly saw this 5 years ago. And it comes across as ungrateful for the opportunity and disrespectful to a lot of players in the NHL, let alone the players who currently play for the Winnipeg Jets. If I was on this team, I would be very pissed, and I would be welcoming the opportunity to play against this prospect in a short year to come. So
I think there's a balance. Like I'm honestly all for, kind of a players understanding their worth and trying to, because you only have so many years. But you're right that it's like we kind of got to see these guys on the ice in the the professional level before we can make, even just like a decent evaluation. But like also like we're talking about how a team is built, and they're really, it's a weird phenomenon. I don't know what the kind of market correction is gonna be, but you're right. We're seeing a little bit more of this, and it's gonna take, it's an adjustment. It's an adjustment to kind of look at this as like guys who aren't even, legitimately part of the team yet, saying like, well, this is how this is gonna go.
And let's take this back to the draft.
Yeah.
There's an army of people behind every organization, to include GMs and coaches and scouts and advisors, who all take an emotional investment. And this is a massive investment, and you're a first round draft pick. Good for you. You're God blessed with that talent. It has not manifested itself at the NHL level. You have no right to sit here and make demands like this. You earn that respect, and this was not earned. And we see this. This is not the only incidents that we've seen in the past season alone of prospects pulling this kind of crap. I feel for the Winnipeg Jets. To appease the situation, they turned around and traded him to the Pittsburgh Penguins for blue chip prospect on the other end, Braden Yeager. So I'm all in on the Braden Yeager train. And ironically, today we'll be previewing the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting if this guy's, if he can cut the mustard. Because, you make a move like this, like, all right, buddy, we're going to have to see some production out of you.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that that's going to pan out. I mean, how many players have we seen crush it in juniors or crush it at the NCAA level, and it just doesn't click in the NHL? It doesn't happen. Okay, let's move on. Transaction Train Station is coming up.
Can I sell a stock real quick?
Sell your stock. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm selling Diamond Sports Group, the parent company of Bally. They're trash. I haven't been able to watch a Blue Jackets game seamlessly in like 5 years. They are bankrupt and don't know how they're going to broadcast games. This is a regional sports network. Amazon looks to be stepping in, and I don't know necessarily acquiring Diamond Sports Group, but they're looking to be able to show the properties on Bally through Amazon Prime in a more seamless way. So like I'm in Columbus, I can only get Bally if I pay Spectrum like $200 a month. It's not even on like the basic Spectrum TV plan. I don't really want to do that. I buy Bally Sports Plus, which is their streaming service that was like 2 years too late to come online, and it's terrible. It's $24 a month. It barely works. I can only watch the Jackets or the Cavs where I'm from. I can't watch the Reds, which is my baseball team. And it's bad. It's a bad service. They are not living up to their end of the bargain, which is, I'm a fan. I want to watch my team. You broadcast and show my team. I want to give you money so I can watch them. It's very difficult. It's not good. Before Bally Sports Plus came online, you couldn't watch the Jackets. So I'm preying on their downfall. I'm not a huge Amazon guy, kind of disagree with a lot of their business practices, but Prime as a concept, as a product, pretty good as far as stream services go. So if there's a future where I can pay Amazon an extra $7 a month and watch the Blue Jackets as a fan, I can be pretty content with that. So things are happening in the TV space in regards to this.
Well said, Grant. I think you kind of have established yourself as our TV provider expert in the field, especially for the NHL.
Love that. I love the business side of these things.
Yeah.
Enough. Yeah.
Okay. Transaction Train Station, all aboard, everybody. A stock I almost sold on, Grant, was the Carolina Hurricanes off season. No doubt a move out of necessity here. Seth Jarvis signs 8-year by $7.42 million. He had 67 points last season. His underlying stats are phenomenal. He drives the play. He's at a positive Corsi, positive Fenwick, and expected goals for. he will have to be a bright spot for the Carolina Hurricanes forward group that had a bit of a rough offseason. We'll be curious to see how that plays out for them in the Metropolitan. So,
yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about the Canes. They're an interesting team, and he's a guy that we've kind of talked about, like the Canes having an identity. He kind of embodies it, just the way he plays. He's kind of he is if you not dilute. What's the opposite of dilute?
saturate.
If you were to no. If you were to concentrate the Canes hockey into a specific player, it's Seth Jarvis might be as close as you can get.
Yeah, I would agree with
so
you.
Good for him. Good ticket.
Okay, big news out of Edmonton. Leon Draisaitl signs an 8-year by $14 million deal. He's had
big money, baby.
100 plus points in 3 of his last 4 seasons. The big question here, does this contract bait fellow teammate Connor McDavid enough to stay and extend with his career in Edmonton?
Probably.
I would think so.
If they keep winning, yeah. I love this, dude. I love like a Scottie Pippen, Batman, Robin. I love when those guys get their due. This was such a huge number when this hit. I don't know if we texted about it or I can't really figure out when this hit in line with the tragedy that we've been dealing with, but just amazing. Like, this is the Oilers. They're putting their chips on the table. This is who we are. This is what this is going to be. But Connor's got one more year left on his $12.5 million contract.
Yep.
So
what's that going to be? What's that number going to be?
We should try to figure it. We should each pick
north of 14.
Yeah, I was going to say 15. I was going to say 15.5.
Yeah, every bit of it. Which brings me to our next point here, a connecting news story. The offer sheets on our last episode or something we discussed, Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway were submitted offer sheets from the St. Louis Blues. The Edmonton Oilers did not match the offers and instead allowed Broberg and Holloway to go to St. Louis. In the process, acquired a 2nd and 3rd round pick. No doubt has something to do with the cap hit coming up of Leon Draisaitl now at $14 million and the pending Connor McDavid extension that they are obviously working in the background. That will eat up almost $30 million of their cap space.
Chris Johnston is a good writer for The Athletic. Had a good breakdown on the behind the scenes kind of move and conversation that the Oilers front office was having with Draisaitl. And basically how I've read this, and again, I'm not in the room, but from what I understand, that offer sheet or that offer from St. Louis slowed this contract down by like a week because they had to handle that and come to a decision. So they had to like pause the Draisaitl talks, get in the war room, figure out what they were going to do with Holloway and Broberg. And then once they were like, okay, no, it's not in our best interest to match these because the Draisaitl conversations were already so far along.
It's a tough call there because Broberg, while $4+ million may seem a little steep for an unproven talent, I think he had a very high ceiling. And this is a blue line that doesn't necessarily afford to lose talents like this. And if they're serious about contending for the cup again, which I have no doubt they'll definitely make a run next season, but this is going to be felt on a blue line situation that isn't ideal as it stands. So, and good for St. Louis. We'll get to this news. So we just talked about it now. Torrey Krug has ankle surgery and is out for the season. We spoke to his arthritic issues the past couple of weeks, and that clearly manifested itself. So now Broberg is going to step right in and help shore up a blue line that desperately needs help in St. Louis. And another team out of the Pacific, a team who seems to be treading water and trying to find their direction, are the Seattle Kraken. And they locked up Matty Beniers to a 7-year by $7.14 million deal. His rookie season, he had 57 points and then ran into a sophomore slump last season with 37, a 20-point deduction in production. if you will. Matty Beniers, this is what he would have gotten on any kind of open market. This is where the market is set currently. As I say that, I don't like the deal because it still is unproven to me. That is a big commitment with a big number for a player who has yet to exceed north of 60 points. So I hope this
I'm
works
rooting
out.
for him.
I'm rooting for him too.
Individually, I'm rooting for him. I'm curious of how Seattle does.
Yeah.
This year.
There's no question.
I want it.
They had to pay him this number. They had to. But
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't love it.
It's the economics of it. It's like, well, either you pay him or someone else is.
Right.
And,
in today's NHL, you can't afford to lose that. You don't have a replacement.
You can't like moneyball yourself to death and just be like, well, he's not worth this. The market's wrong. We're right. Like you can't do that because then you don't have a team. So you end up with these big tickets because he's going to be on the ice. You hope he improves. And I'm willing to bet that it's like most things, dude, it's probably the truth is probably somewhere in the middle between, his first year and second year.
It's like the Draisaitl situation. It's not a winning recipe to let Draisaitl walk. You're going to pay him, right? That is a top 5 talent in the world right now.
Yeah.
Pay that man what he's earned and deserves and bank on the fact that you've got 2 of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
Grant, some fun news out of Boston. We love professional tryouts here, PTOs as they are referred to. Longtime NHL veteran Tyler Johnson spent time with Tampa Bay, has spent time in recent years with Chicago. He's going to give it a go with the Boston Bruins. Rooting for him. I hope he makes it out of camp.
Yeah, I agree. We were talking about these like PTOs. They're so much fun to kind of just like buy into a little bit. You just see these familiar names, these guys that you just remember watching for so many years get one last crack at it. So, being on this podcast, man, I'm going to start rooting for the Bruins, which is a crazy thing to say. But you just start getting connected to some of these stories and some of these guys.
I know. It's the Connolly effect. All right.
Yeah.
Our last transaction we're going to talk about today is Cole Sillinger out of Columbus.
Our guy.
2-year by $2.5 million deal. He had 32 points last season. Grant knows full well I have followed this kid since his debut. I'm a huge fan. I look for him to step up in a big way this season.
Yeah, I think everyone here in Columbus is with you on that one, Trent. Good bridge deal. I can't remember. I know we've been handling so much and my mind's kind of still in a fog, but have we talked about like Line moving? Was that our last show? I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay. So we did talk about that.
We talked about Jordan Harris. Yeah, we talked about it.
Okay. So, new GM, Don Waddell, I think is actually how you pronounce his name because he was at the vigil. That's how he's introduced. But he had a couple things on the to-do list when he got the job, which was, try to move on from Line, hire a coach, and sign our RFAs, guys like Kent Johnston, Kirill Marchenko, and Cole Sillinger. And you know what? Kudos to Don, the Don. He checked every box so far, and Cole was one of those that needed to get done. I think this is a fair number considering his production. I think he's a good center. I think he's a good player. I hope the new coaching staff, the big word here for everyone is just a little bit of stability, and that's going to be really hard with Johnny passing and not with us. And that's going to, what the optimism that we had going into the season was, new coach, Monahan's here, some guys are, healthy. Let's just see what we got. Maybe this team could be fun to watch. That's going to take a big change, but for specifically some of these young guys like Kent Johnson, Cole, Fatilli, I'll even throw my guy Igor Chainikov in there. Hopefully these guys have had like 4 head coaches in like 3 years. It's absurd. And it hasn't been great team management here in Columbus. And unfortunately, I think you can put a large
part of maybe Cole's production dropping off towards that kind of instability. So hopefully we got a couple good years of him here in Columbus, and ideally, he proves that he's top, I think he could be a second line center for this organization for a long time in the same way that kind of Boone Jenner has. So let's see what we got, Cole.
Grant, let me give you a look into the future, a hopeful one at that. Let me give you some clairvoyance. Cole Sillinger is on my franchise in NHL 2024.
Okay.
My franchise is now in like its 10th or 12th year. Hell, I don't know.
Wow.
And let me just say this. It works out. Cole Sillinger becomes a star center and demands much more than $2.5 million. So
he's gonna have his opportunity, I think.
Again, I don't know what the changes of the team are going to be. I know we're not going to talk a lot of just actual hockey for the Jackets for a while, frankly, because I don't think it's appropriate. I don't really want to wrap my mind around it. But from Cole's standpoint, I'm happy to talk about him. He's gonna get a chance this year, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to NHL housekeeping. Let's clean it up. It's been a little bit since we've cleaned it up, so there's dust and dog hair everywhere. I woke up this morning and there are toys all over the place, Grant. I thought I was going to break my ankle. This Labrador is trying to kill me. Tennis balls. She got a new dinosaur. The dinosaur's got a football jersey on, and that's a big hit.
Oh, I got my dog's Browns jerseys.
Nice.
That's what I got. A little Cleveland Brown jersey for the Beagle and the Dotson.
Yeah, she's rocking a bandana with pumpkins and footballs on it. So
Tis the season.
Okay, housekeeping. We talked about Torrey Krug out of St. Louis. He's done for the season. A blue line that was already in dire straits is going to be looking to Philip Broberg to really fill the void there. Very volatile situation out of Philadelphia. So if you recall, last trade deadline, Ryan Johansson was traded to the Philadelphia Flyers. In exchange, to take on that contract, they received a first-round draft pick from Colorado, and they flipped Sean Walker in the process. Okay, now, and some of this will be speculative just because we don't have all the answers, and rightfully so. They're not going to release this situation because it's ugly. Ryan Johansson, his contract is effectively terminated, or they're attempting to terminate it. They're trying to waive him and send him to the minors. He has now filed a grievance for this because, one, he wants to basically earn the $8 million that he has left on this contract. He wants to get paid, which anybody would. And he's having a hard time committing himself to being a minor league forward at this point in the AHL, mind you. Also, the Flyers are claiming that he did not report an injury coming over to Philadelphia, and he is saying now that the injury is a reason as to why they can't move him to the minor league team because he has yet to play. Now think about that too. The trade deadline, that was back in March. You still had a good month of hockey left on the season, where Ryan Johansson, he has not played a game since his last game in Colorado. So, and also goes to say his history with John Tortorella in Philadelphia has not been great. Not the best relationship there either. So this whole situation is ugly. We don't know the exact details. We do know that these two parties are certainly not seeing eye to eye at the moment. So we'll be kind of fascinating to see what comes of this contract and this player, especially because he's still on an $8 million contract, $4 million of that being paid by the Predators and the other $4 million now being paid by the Flyers. Grant, your thoughts?
He's 32. I think he's probably still got at least 1 or 2 years, of decent hockey left. But I guess do you think he has is there an actual extensive injury here? Is that, because if that's the case, then maybe he doesn't have 2 years. I don't know.
And some people have blamed Colorado for this and not disclosing an injury, but the fact is,
he was playing.
The day before the trade, he played in a game for the Avs. So It's not like they just kept some secret. He was playing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's pretty
strange.
irrational.
It's a strange
Yeah.
scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't point the finger to the Avs organization. That's not like them to play dirty hockey. You know, they're going to be transparent. Sakic values his relationships in the league. He's not going to try to cheat somebody, especially Daniel Briere and Keith Jones out of Philadelphia. I don't see a situation where Ryan Johansson suits up for the Philadelphia Flyers. I will say that.
I don't either. I think that has passed. So like you're looking at the Avs. Well, the Avs aren't. They're not responsible for this, but theoretically, yeah, they shouldn't be. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm stumbling over my words here. I don't know what to make of any of this.
It would be kind of funny if the Flyers then flipped him, and now you've got effectively 3 teams paying $8 million contract. Because
maybe it's the Jackets. Bring them home.
Bring him home.
We got cap space. I don't know what the draft capital of the Flyers are. Yeah, bring him here and we'll take on some of that debt. And yeah, we've seen this before. Maybe there's something there. Unless he's like super hurt with a hip injury. That part of it is so weird.
I got to say, from what I saw last season, I wouldn't bank on there being much there. Maybe it's just how the Avs play, but man, that did not work out. So, I'm rooting for him.
13 goals, 62 games, 10. Yeah, that's not great.
He looked slow, Grant. It did not.
Well, maybe he is hurt.
Things weren't clicking at the speed that the Avs wanted, which is why he was moved. All right, let's move on here. Yeah. Utah hockey in their, intermediate branding, if you will. So this season they have determined that they are playing with a temporary logo, and with the temporary logo have created their temporary uniforms. I got to say, I'm pretty underwhelmed, and I'm really hoping that the Utah hockey creative team gets together and creates some more juice in the permanent logo and the permanent jerseys to come. And thankfully this is just temporary, because they essentially took a picture of the Winnipeg Jets home uniforms and slapped on their logo and said, here's our product. So
it's not great.
It's not great. Just go Google it. It's the Winnipeg Jets jerseys with a different logo on the center.
Yeah. Oof. You're right. Underwhelming is probably the best way to put this. They don't look good, but yeah, I guess it's temporary. But they're not even really they don't stand out in any way, I guess, to put it kindly.
Yeah, they certainly don't pop. So we'll look for the sake of the fans and the sake of having a new team with so much momentum and energy, we'll look for them to establish some new fire uniforms to match the hype that team is receiving. Okay, last bit of news here out of housekeeping, Grant. This is strictly speculation, but I want to put it on everyone's radar. We're coming up on a big season for some big names and some big contracts. Last season, on his contract for Mikko Rantanen in Colorado, Connor McDavid in Edmonton, and Sidney Crosby out of Pittsburgh. We're not going to sit here and make predictions, but just keep it on your radar. We got 3 big time contracts to sign before the trade deadline. Do one of these guys get moved? I don't know. Maybe.
Sidney Crosby is going to make $8.7 million a year again, no matter what, in perpetuity.
Do you know he scored 42 goals last season?
Yeah. Yeah, he's still really good.
Yeah, for $8.7 million, that's amazing.
Yeah.
42
That's
goals.
just what he makes, Trent. He's made that much since 2008.
All right, Grant, let's move on to our preseason primers. We got the Chicago Blackhawks today. Last season, they finished 8th in the Central Division, led by GM Kyle Davidson and head coach Luke Richardson. They're looking at $6.7 million in cap space. The moves here, Grant, I call it 3 men and a baby. And by that, and we've talked about this previously, I don't mean that as a slight toward Connor Bedard. I mean that they They insulated this kid
Oh, yeah.
with so much veteran big names, right? So let's get right to it. They signed TJ Brody, 2 years, $7.5 million on the blue line. Pat Maroon, 1 year, $1.3 million. Craig Smith, 1 year, $1 million. Teravainen comes back from Carolina, 3 years, $5.4 million. Alec Martinez, 1 year, $4 million. Tyler Bertuzzi, 4 years, $5.5 million. And then traded a 2027 fourth round pick. This is a good bit of business here. And acquired Ilya Mikheyev, who Vancouver was losing patience with, and Sam Lafferty, going to be a great bottom six forward. So you see a lot of established names: Brody, Martinez, Bertuzzi, Smith,
Foligno.
and you've already got Foligno. You've got these old men in the league that are now just surrounding this kid, and they're going to protect him. Key forwards in the process. You're going to get Taylor Hall back from that injury last season. This is his last year at $6 million on the team. We'll see if he gets extended. You got Nick Foligno, like you just said, $4.5 million. You got Bertuzzi, Teravainen, and of course, rookie sensation, now sophomore sensation, Connor Bedard. On defense, Alex Vlasic is 23. This is good. $4.6 million. Connor Murphy is 31 at 4.4, and Seth Jones is 29. 4 years left at $9.5 million. No doubt that is got to be one of the worst contracts left in the league. When
Not his fault. Can't blame him.
When this rebuild starts to really turn the tide and the wheels really start to get rolling, this Connor Murphy deal or this Seth Jones contract are going to be looked to move. That's not a deal that's going to slow down your rebuild, essentially. The tires are going to hit some speed bumps with these kinds of contracts. And you don't want that for the team that you're trying to reestablish in an original six environment. The keys to success here: you got 2 first-round picks and you got 2 second-round picks in the 2025 draft. You have insulated Connor Bedard with all kinds of fun and established names. A lot of names here. Maybe they got a little juice left in the tank, but no doubt they will be able to bring a lot of veteran experience to a team that needs it after a terrible season in 23-24. Continue to develop your prospects and draft well. Don't get greedy. Move a bad contract if you can, but don't force it. The roster has improved, and I think it's just good enough to bring some veteran experience here. You get Taylor Hall back to not be last place in the Central. I got him 7th.
Well, okay. Interesting. I have them last. I don't dislike the Blackhawks. I wish Connor was in Columbus, but that's different. That's an old conversation, man. Yeah, I love just, the moments before a rebuild. We got to get these guys moving a little bit to make room for more young people. So it's going to be very interesting just to observe from kind of a 10,000 foot view. There's just some great names on this team. There's just guys that have just been with us forever, and they're in Chicago, and that's a great city, great hockey town. I don't necessarily want the Hawks to be good again like they were when they were winning the cup all the time, because I want my team to win those cups. So less success for another team, maybe success for Columbus. That's a really dumb way to look at things, but that's how my brain works sometimes. They have a shot to get like some more young players. Their draft capital, did we talk about that? They got 2 first round picks coming up and 2 second round picks. So they know what they're trying to do, which for a lot of years, I don't know if Chicago did, because it felt like they were kind of holding on to the Kane and Taves era, which is how you end up giving Seth Jones that type of contract, because you're still trying to hang on to things. So a fun process awaits the Chicago Blackhawks. It's been in the works for a few years, and we're seeing it. And Connor Bedard's electric to watch. He's one of these guys that kind of makes me feel how watching McDavid and
yeah, who else? The McDavid, who else was Austin Matthews? Kind of when those guys first came up. Bedard gives me that same kind of feeling.
Look, this team still leaves a lot to be desired on the current roster. But like you said, they got a lot of blue chip prospects in the Raptors in the waiting and a lot of draft capital. This team, though, I think is going to be fun to watch.
Yes.
Only reason being they've got so much Stanley Cup veteran experience that is battle tested now playing alongside the coveted superstar.
Yeah.
The young kid Connor Bedard. And because of that, I think there's a little more hope and promise than I do the St. Louis Blues, which that blue line situation, like we talked about previous episodes, is not good. And I think Chicago thrust themselves into a better situation here. And that's why I don't think they finished last in the Central. And I think they only move in the right direction from here.
Yeah, agreed. Like you said, I think it's only going to get better in Chicago, probably.
Okay, so there you have it, folks. Chicago is cleaned up. Let's go to Winnipeg. Let's talk about the Jets. The Jets finished second in the Central last season. GM Kevin Cheveldayoff and head coach Scott Arnell, cap space $5.7 million. Moves this offseason, not many, more departures than acquisitions. Signed Colin Miller 2 years, $3 million. Capo Kakinen 1 year, $1 million for goaltending. And Dylan DeMello re-signs 4 years, $5 million. They lost in the process. Sean Monahan goes to Columbus. They lost Tyler Toffoli and Brendan Dillon. I believe Toffoli went to San Jose and Brendan Dillon went to Carolina, I believe.
That sounds right.
Fords. Key Fords. You got Mark Scheifele. He's 31, $8.5 million. He had 72 points last year. Kyle Connor is 27 at $7.14 million. And Nikolai Ehlers, often heard in trade rumors now, he's 28, last year at $6 million. We'll see if they want to pay him long term.
Who's going to pick up that deal?
Right, because you're going to have
to. He's got a no trade clause.
Well, you're going to have to extend him, whoever you are.
If do you try to move him if things aren't going well in Winnipeg? Do you try? I don't know. We're getting too into it.
That's an expensive rental.
Can't put a price tag on a Stanley Cup one.
Yeah, sure. Josh Morrissey on the blue line is 29, $6.25 million. This dude's a stud. First round of the playoffs against Colorado. He was the bright spot. Very talented forward. Eats a lot of minutes. Neil Pionk is now a top 2 defenseman. He's 29, $5.88 million. And then you got Dylan DeMello, who we just talked about, re-signed at $5 million. Keys to success. Connor Hellebuck every single year delivers one of the best regular seasons statistically in the crease. Playoffs have been a bit of a struggle. He'll have to improve on the playoff jitters if they make the playoffs. They had a positive Corsi 4 all last season, Grant. They plateaued a little bit in the back half, but positive nonetheless.
They play a strong brand of hockey. They're not easy to play against. They never have been, and that's the one thing you can always say about the Jets.
To that point,
you see that come through in the underlying numbers.
To that point,
it's reflected.
It's low event. Okay, so their expected goals for was you hardly saw. I was looking at the advanced stats last night. There were very few games throughout the entire 82-game season where they were expected to score more than 3 goals.
That's Scott Arniel, dude. He was in Columbus. It's very vanilla, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but you're exactly right. It's low. It's low event hockey.
Low event. And by that same token, though, there were very few games where they were expected to yield 3 goals against. So with that, again, low event hockey, not a whole lot of production happening on either side, offense or defense. In the playoffs, they were exposed a little bit. They had a negative Corsi 4 in that series against the Avs in all games but one. I thought this was a funny stat. In game 1 of that series, the game that they won, they had a 1.6 goals expected, and they scored 7. So that paints a picture for the Avs that we'll talk about later on. But I digress. This team, because it's so low event, was exposed in the playoffs a little bit and needs to ignite some offense. They need some goals. They need more production. And because of the departures of a guy like Sean Monahan and Tyler Toffoli and the heavy lifting from forwards Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. They're going to have a big, strong performance from younger guys like Braden Yeager, Cole Perfetti, who had 38 points last season, and Brad Lambert, who has yet to really make his claim in the NHL. That's a lot of pressure on young guys. I don't know if I see that. This has all the makings of regression in my mind because the departures and how much weight is put on a few players on that top line.
Yeah, we talked about him earlier. Like, you got to imagine Yeager is going to get a shot. He's only 19, but you're right. The math on like who's departed compared to who's been brought in / who's still here, like there's some gaps. There are some gaps. So can't say I'm super interested in the Jets, just the way they play. You know, like I said, it's low event hockey. I don't find myself like chomping at the bit to watch them, but seeing a team, if they can hang on, it will be interesting, I guess. I kind of with you. I can see them regressing a little bit.
We talk about gaps a lot, but that's not to say these young guys can't come in and perform. I mean, that's how names are established in the NHL. That's how new guys are going to come into the league and establish themselves. But until it's proven, it's kind of like the Matty Beniers contract we talked about earlier. You got a hard time building trust in that situation. So because of all this, I have them finishing 5th in the Central Division. I have them missing the playoffs. If you recall, I projected the Utah Hockey Club. Ironically, they're wearing the same jersey this season. I had them 4th just because of the momentum and all the hype around that team. I think they're going to get a big home ice bump and take a wild card spot. Yeah, so I got the Jets in 5th, and I don't foresee them making the playoffs.
Yeah, I can see them dropping. I can see them dropping to 5. I can't keep track of my predictions, unfortunately. I'm not as organized as Trent is, folks. But yeah, that wouldn't shock me. I mean, we talk about how difficult the Central is going to be. There's not a lot of room for error, especially if Utah gets better. As you think about within your division, if you are a Dallas, Winnipeg, or Colorado, you want to get your points against the Arizonas and the Chicagos of the world. But if all of a sudden Arizona's in Utah and they start playing a little better, it's where you finding those points to create some space. I mean, 110 points last year is not nothing. So if you're saying they're going to drop to the high 80s, like that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
But I can see, because that's, with the way they play, if you miss out on a couple opportunities, then you're not getting the wins. You're not getting those 2 points.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That does it for our preseason primers for today. I'm going to push the Stars to next weekend when we're going to discuss the finale of the Central Division. We got the Avs, the Preds, and the Stars. 3 high-flying teams. I got all 3 of them making the playoffs. We'll have to find out in what order. So stay tuned for that. Grant, you got any final notes on the Jets, or are you ready for the hard hats of the week?
I'm ready. I'm ready for I'm done with the Jets. I won't think about them for a while. And that's not any disrespect to them or the fine folks in Winnipeg. It's just how my brain works, unfortunately.
I love your honesty. Grant, the hard hats of the week are sponsored by Leroy's Bar. Located in the heart of Worcester, Ohio, Leroy's establishment has provided cheap pitchers and a safe haven for all of the Fighting Scots of Worcester since 1969. Make your reservations today and let it be known the Fighting Scots of Worcester got a great victory on the football field this weekend.
Yeah, we did.
Wilmington College. My hard hat of the week is
fun fact. Wilmington, I visited there and there was no one at the game, and I said, I don't think I'm going to go here.
Is that Ohio? Wilmington?
Yeah, it was like 30 minutes from like where I grew up. So they usually recruited our high school fairly well, but they're in the OAC. So you play in like Mount Union and back then John Carroll and Baldwin Wallace. But yeah, not to make this about me, I probably would have played a lot because they were not good, but I did not want to get my teeth kicked in by that OAC conference every Saturday. It was a little too close to home, and no disrespect to Wilmington. It's a nice small town, not where I wanted to spend 4 years of college. But shout out to, but not about them. It's just about the Scots, baby. Got that win.
I love your humility, and we're grateful that you went to Worcester. Grant,
Yes, we are.
My hard hat of the week is simple. It's going to Zach Werenski for his speech, Johnny Gaudreau's candlelight vigil at Nationwide Arena. That one got me. When you watch that, it was viral on Twitter. I highly encourage you to go look that up, especially if you're looking for a good cry today. That's pretty much a guarantee. And he did a phenomenal job, represented the team very well as the team captain, and we talked about trying to piece it together. It will rest a lot on his leadership and what that looks like moving forward for this organization from all angles. So I respect Zach Werenski to the utmost. I hope he makes Team USA this season. That would be just a nice little feather in his cap to help him move on, or not move on, move forward in the right way.
Come together
from
this.
Yeah, exactly. From a very difficult situation. So maybe he plays for Team USA and honors Johnny in doing so.
Yeah, I can imagine there's going to be a lot of heavy hearts on that USA team for some time. That was a great one, Trent. We're in the same direction. I love Zach. I feel like I've seen him kind of grow up as a fan. I mean, he was 18 when he took the ice, and he's kind of really become a leader, and he's taken a big step, and he's represented himself and the organization very well the past couple of weeks. It's similar direction. Listen, it's all about the Columbus hockey community. It's about the players, the teammates, the families associated with all this. Spoke very eloquently and handled this very well. I'm going to give a special shout out to someone who I've had the pleasure of meeting a couple times, and I see him as somewhat of an influence on my life and career. Bob McGilligan is a radio broadcaster for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He essentially hosted that candlelight vigil, and I wish I had a better word for that, but he was the one that stood up first and thanked fans for being here and kind of explained what we were doing, and then passed it over to the players. And that's a brutally difficult job, and I couldn't imagine having to do that. Folks don't know a little bit about me. I did play-by-play for the hockey team at Worcester when Trent was there. I've been closely involved in wanting to go that direction in my life. Hasn't happened. Bob McGilligan is one of those guys who I've listened, cover the Jackets. He's done radio play-by-play. He also does calls for the Columbus Clippers, a AAA baseball team here in town. I have had the pleasure of meeting him a handful of times. Wanted to give credit to him for his involvement with the organization the past week and how special it's been.
All right, folks, you heard it here first. That's the hard hats of the week. It is September 8th. I encourage all of our fans, reach out with some love for the Gauddreau family. Reach out, comment on our social media, Twitter or Facebook, and help us honor Johnny and Matthew. Reach out on email, hardhathockey1@gmail.com. And reach out with the stock tip as well. That's a new segment that we're really trying to establish in the show. Stocks that you're buying, stocks that you're selling. Let us know, and we'll talk about it next weekend as we preview the Preds, the Avs, and the Stars wrapping up the Central Division.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
That's packed and stacked.
Folks, we are just over a week away from these training camps really opening up and the season getting going. So it's certainly, dare I say, it's exciting times. Kind of weird to say that right now, but certainly ready to see skates on the ice. So ready to
some normalcy will be nice. We never move on. That's kind of what I'm saying. I don't want to ever get over this. This is going to be on my mind for a while, but there is something to be said about hockey comforting your kind of soul in times like this.
It's therapeutic.
Yeah, and call your loved ones, hug your loved ones. Please don't drive inebriated. That's something Eric Brunson made very clear in what he's been speaking of. That's something I'm going to take to heart and institute in my life. If there's something that can come from this. And yeah, Trent, I just want to thank you for doing this, and I've really enjoyed having this show with you and being able to kind of talk to you as a friend and colleague through this is helps me out a lot. So I really appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, brother. Played in a men's hockey game Friday night. We won 3-2. And just being surrounded by like-minded individuals who love the game of hockey is very therapeutic. Likewise, doing this show with you is also extremely therapeutic. Talking about the sport that we love, teams that we love, players that we love. It's all good. And it's all moving in the right direction. And it's all going to be positive. And we are excited for the upcoming season. And hopefully that we can continue to honor the Gauddreau family in every episode that we do for the remainder of this season, and so on and so forth. And as long as this thing keeps growing, we're gonna honor them in the right way. So, folks, we're gonna wrap it up here. We love you so much. We'll talk to you next weekend, and let's get after the Avs, the Preds, and the Stars. Stay tuned. Reach out with those stock tips. Let's go.